For Vibe 105, this is Fatima Hussein, and in focus today is the film Bones of Crows, a Canadian production that had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival 2022. Joining me today to discuss the production of the film is the award-winning director Marie Clements. But before that, we'd like to acknowledge the land we are on. The area known as Takaranto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. Welcome to Vibe 105, Marie.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your incredibly moving and powerful film, Bones of Crows. The film is very timely, very impactful, and certainly very necessary. For our audiences here, could you briefly tell us what the film is about?
Yeah, it centers around our main character, Aline Spears, who's going into World War II to become a code talker. And she ends up falling in love with this soldier from the West Coast. And they plan this future together to have a family. And then both their experiences in residential school start to come back to them. And we kind of see it over the course of her lifetime, what this, this experience in residential school kind of filters out through 5 generations of her family.
What's wrong? Talk to me.
And things are too good. I'm just scared that things will be taken away.
I've been very intrigued by the title, Bones of Crows. Why so?
Well, it's kind of a personal experience that happened to me, and my mother was passing away, and there would be a Catholic priest who would come almost every day, hoping to give her last rites. And my mother didn't want last rites, but he would come anyways, and we would hear his shoes on the hallway, coming down the corridor every day. And every day she would say, oh, just tell, she would pretend she was sleeping. And I would say, oh, no, she's sleeping, and thank you very much. And he would leave. So on our last day together, he came again, and she opened her eyes when he was walking back, and she said, the crows always come when you're down. And so, what she was saying with their, these cloaks and robes, that I'd imagine when she was a kid, that's what she felt as these crows were coming down the hallway towards the dorms. So it became Bones of Crows.
Right. Marie, you've set a new precedent with this historical saga, especially towards amplifying Indigenous voices through film. How did the concept of Bones of Crows come into being, and how long did it take for you to complete the film?
Well, originally I just, kind of was evolved around a conversation around there had never been roots that represented Canadian history through an Indigenous lens in this country. So, from that, we, another producer, Sam Grana, and myself went to CBC to get development support. And then we brought on Trish Dolman and Christine Habler from Screen Sirens, and began to flesh out this idea of a 5-part miniseries, but also a feature film. So we kind of began there, and it just kept getting bigger.
The narrative of the film unfolds over, I think, almost an entire century. What were the conversations like when you decided to channel the storytelling in this particular style?
Well, there's a great privilege in being able to tell the story over, close to 120 years, but also to really look at, the residential school experience, but also how that came to be, and other policies that have really affected First Nations people in this country for generations. So it was really looking at just the multi-generational effect of just one program, but how that kind of resonated throughout all their lives, whether it's, we see Aline from the age, 9 to 86, and we see how it affects her children and her children's children and her siblings and husbands. So it's a really kind of was an opportunity to look at one person's narrative, but also to look at, like the rest of us, we have mothers and fathers and, grandparents, and, we're affected by their experience. And that seems to resonate through our lives and our children's lives.
The lead character, as you mentioned, that of the Cree matriarch Aline Spears, which was beautifully played by actor Grace Dove, becomes a symbol of resilience and resistance. What were the major influences in shaping the character?
I think like a lot of creators, we kind of source close to our heart, and I was really looking to honor my mother and my aunties and uncles. So really, I had these really strong and beautiful, female influences in my life that had gone to residential school and had, really worked to survive with the kind of grace and steel will, you might say. So I was really able to kind of shape from their experiences and into this one character.
The film recounts decades of systemic abuse against Indigenous peoples. What were some of the real-life historical accounts the film took into inspiration to propel the story?
Well, I mean, I think there's, not surprisingly, I think not every Canadian knows this history or understands it to the degree that Indigenous families do. So it was really looking at trying to get through, just trying to find a way to represent it in a dramatic way, but also in a psychological way, because I do believe that those kind of experiences stay with a person for the rest of their lives. So that was kind of the real push, was really to try to get inside of that experience and have the witness, the audience, come for that ride so that they too could feel. And, as we're all trying to do as creators, is if we can allow people to feel, there's a possibility for change.
Right. You put together a rather outstanding cast of largely Indigenous actors. How was the experience working with the actors on the set, especially while shooting or reenacting the difficult scenes?
I think that's what was one of the, greatest kind of grace that we had, was that we were able to come together. I mean, some actors I'd known, when I started out a while ago, and other actors are coming up. And then, of course, there's a generation of actors and creators that came to join us, so it spanned anywhere from, a 3-year-old to a 91-year-old Queen Aline Spears. So we had this kind of huge span of incredibly talented performers in their own right, who came to join us in telling this story, but they also were able to, hopefully source, their families' experience with residential school, but also their craft. And I think what started to happen and kind of continued throughout was that it unified us in a very different way, meaning we were very absolute about what we wanted to do and how we needed to do it. And we understood the responsibility, but also just this kind of relief to be able to express a story we've all been holding.
Absolutely. And as audiences of the film, there is certainly a lot to learn, a lot to understand, and a lot to acknowledge. Is there something in particular you're hoping for the audiences to take away from that viewing experience?
Well, I mean, I think, just looking at Indigenous families and how they survived and how they continue to survive, and then, thrive and really push through with a resistance that is actually, I just find, incredibly remarkable. So I'm hoping that people understand, that this is not just an Indigenous story or an Indigenous experience. It's a Canadian story, and it's a Canadian experience that we all have a part in.
Did you face any challenges while producing the film?
I think it's, it's such a huge project, being both a feature and a miniseries. And I worked with really experienced and profound producers who stood beside me to make that happen. But, it's no easy feat to get that kind of support, but we did. And I would have to say that, all the broadcasters and funders really went out of their way, and so many times to make it happen and to make it real, that it was that kind of unique unification. So I was very, very grateful, but also very, just relieved, to be honest.
When and where can we watch the film?
Well, we're doing a bit of a festival tour. We just, as you were saying, we just premiered at TIFF, and now we screen at the Atlantic International Film Festival tonight. And then I'm off to Sudbury to screen, well, I don't know, on Friday, I believe. And then we're opening VIFF, the Vancouver International Film Festival. And we're at Calgary on September 30th, Edmonton. And we're doing, as you can see, doing a bit of a run in the festival circuit and pushing for a theatrical release this spring.
That sounds wonderful. You mentioned initially that the film is also expanding into a series, a 5-part series. Tell us more about its debut on CBC.
Yeah, we're in post right now for the TV series and looking to broadcast on CBC next September 2023. So we're rolling everything out in stages, hoping that people will have a curiosity to meet the other characters and see the characters they know. They're more expanded stories from Bones of Crows.
Sounds wonderful. What can we expect to see from you next?
Well, you know how it is, you know, working on a number of projects and hoping to get them up this year. But Bones of Crows has kind of been my main baby for a while. But yeah, stay tuned. There's things coming.
Marie, it has been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you once again for joining us, and congratulations on your film.
Thank you so much for having me. All the best.